Shalom to the nation of Israel. First and foremost, before I get into my lesson, I want to start off by giving all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone that teach and that rule well today. And peace and salutation also to the fellow laborers that's in the ministry and the believers that scatter worldwide in all truth and sincerity, day in, day out. Once again, I'm the brother Shaquat Gabar coming at you with another quick lesson. And right before I get into this lesson, this message or these videos goes out to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites according to the Bible. And also to the Israelite foreigners that are scattered amongst the heathen nations and that may take on a physical appearance or a look of another nation. But if your bloodline goes back to Negro, Latino, or Native American descent by the seed of your father, you are considered an Israelite as well. So once again, Shalom. So basically, this lesson is gonna be, basically, back to the basics, man. Okay, because when it comes to, us, of course, has been called in the faith, and those that's involved in this ministry that know this word, okay, that represent this truth. Okay, when it comes to the teaching, okay, start with the apostles and elders and bishops and apostles, bishops, and elders, the men of great millstone, and the true sincere brethren on down, okay, that's involved in the work or in the ministry, teaching His word, okay. But it's really for new followers, okay, that's taking heed to the words of Yahweh Shai Shai, okay, by the way of the prophets, and come back to the understanding that their true nationality, being the Hebrew Israelites, okay, when it comes to so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those that descended out of that bloodline, okay. And one of the first things you find out when it comes to the entry level of this truth, okay, or this word being taught, presenting to you, that we found out that we are the Lord's chosen people, and who the world calls God, which his name is Yahweh in the Hebrew, okay, meaning He is or He exists, and His Son, who the word ignorantly called Jesus Christ, okay, which his name in the Hebrew as well is Yahweh Shai, meaning He is the deliverer or He is the Savior, okay, and we come to the understanding that Yahweh Shai is only dealing with the nation of Israel, okay, when it comes to the covenants, the laws, statutes, commandments, okay, the old covenant, right along with the new, okay, which the new covenant going to lead to the time of Yahweh Shai returning, okay, when it comes to His second coming, okay, that which we know that Yahweh Shai died and risen, okay, for the nation of Israel, right now starting with the elect, okay, but eventually Yahweh Shai has come back to establish the kingdom of Israel here on the earth, okay, and salvation is only pertain, okay, to the Israelites. Like I say, when Yahweh Shai make His second coming, by the way of the chariots, what the world call UFOs, the vehicles of the angels, okay, at the peak of the Third World War, okay, and at that same time, this place America, which is known as Babylon the Great, and which is being ruled by the biblical Edomites, the so-called white race, which this is their kingdom in the world at this time when it comes to their rulership, okay, that Yahweh Shai has come back to destroy this place by the way of thermonuclear fire at the peak of the Third World War, the chariots bringing fire, and the only ones that's going to be delivered from out of that great judgment or the wrath of the Lord is the nation of Israel, once again starting with the elect. Because at this time, 2/3 of our people are going to be judged, according to Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8, okay? But eventually they're going to be reborn in the kingdom. But the whole point of this lesson is that when it comes to the nations, although Yahweh Shai created everything and created all nations, but He made a separation, okay, at this time when it comes to the Israelites, okay, stemming back to the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the 12 patriarchs, okay, which is now today, okay, so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, so-called, okay, when it comes to these false identities that are enemies, okay, when it comes to these heathen nations, mainly starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white race, labor us. Okay, but now we're reawakening to the point that we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. And when it comes to that, the Lord only going to deliver us. And when it comes to these heathen nations, okay, there's no salvation for them. Okay. Matter of fact, we to the point that the Yahweh Shema Shai returning to take these heathen nations out of power. Okay, once again, and set up the kingdom of Israel, the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, not those phonies that's over there, that's false claiming our land. Okay, and like I said, these heathen nations, their future is really captivity, slavery. Okay, after Yahweh Shai deliverance of the elect of the nation of Israel, and this place great destruction, man. Okay, because contrary to popular belief through Christianity, they'll say that who the world called Christ came and died and risen for all nations. Okay, not so, man. Okay, like I say, salvation in the kingdom is only for Israel. Okay, and as I open up with, you're gonna have Israelites looking like other nations. Okay, when it comes to the so-called whites. Okay, the Arabs. Okay, the Japanese, the Chinese. Okay, the East Indians, the Hawaiians, Samoans. Okay, which you come to the typical heathens. Okay, original Africans. Okay, which are the bloodline of Ham. Okay, but all those the ones I named, those heathen nations, their future is captivity. Okay, but you have Israelites scattered amongst them due to the curses, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 16 through 68, to the point that we laid our seed amongst these heathen nations. But once again, those that are Negro, Latino, and Native American descent, they're Israelites, man. Okay, and Yahweh Shah is going to bring salvation amongst them when it comes to the elect. Okay. Hey, but like I said, the whole point of this lesson is that the Lord separate the nations. Okay. And when it comes to these heathens, eventually they was created to be our servants. Okay. But as I say, due to our punishment, the curses, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 16 through 68, the Lord punish us by allowing these heathens to rule over us. Okay. Start mainly at this time, the Edomites. Okay. And when it comes to different various captivities in the ancient times or in past times, okay, these heathens that rule over us when it comes to us going off as a nation against our power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay? But when it comes to these heathen nations, man, like I say, man, they're going to be our service. Okay? And the Lord about to liberate us, okay, at this time from the hands of Esau Edom. Let me go ahead and get into the scriptures. Now I'm going to start off with Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. The Lord thy power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay, so above all people. Okay, and that doesn't change. Okay, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai changed not. Okay, even to this time. Okay, even though we fell as a nation. But Yahweh Shai reconciled us back into the good graces of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, when it came to his crucifixion or his sacrifice, his death and resurrection, okay, to bring back the nation of Israel into the good graces of when it comes to Yahweh making peace with us, man. Okay, like I say, starting with the elect. But for these heathen nations, there's no salvation for them, man. Especially the biblical Edomites. Okay, the so-called white race, which is known as the wicked. Okay, like I said, which we in the time they, rulership, as they trying to force their NWO, and everything they doing is contrary to the ways of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because they are the wicked. Okay, Malachi 1 and 4. But right along with the rest of these heathens that the Lord ain't dealing with, okay, they're going into captivity once Yahweh Shai bring down the kingdom of Esau Edom. Okay, so the Lord said we're above all nations. And what separates us? The law, statutes, and commandments, the covenants. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God command me, that ye should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep them, therefore, and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who have Yahweh Bashim Shai so nigh unto them, as the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai, our God, okay, which the word God means power, okay, or our power is in all things that we call upon him for, okay. And it says, and what nation is so great that have statutes and judgment, so righteousness as all this law which I set before you this day. Okay, so that will separate us from the nations, man. Okay, first of all, the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai, and us being the Lord creation nation, created, chosen nation, okay, through the spirit. But the covenants, okay, when it comes to the law, statutes, commandments, okay, by the way of Moses, during the time of the Exodus out of Egypt, okay. And when it comes to the kingdom, okay, when it comes to the new covenant, that's going to be in our inward parts once Yahweh Shai delivered the elect of the nation of Israel and changing the nation of Israel when it comes to the elect from being mortal to immortality, leading to the law, statute, commandments in our inward parts, okay, the new covenant, okay, Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31, Hebrews chapter 8, starting at verse 6, okay, but that's not for all nations, man, okay, as again, the Lord separate the nations, and they might have the argument, hey, all us came from Adam, okay, especially these Christians, okay, and majority of the world, thinking that the Lord dealing with all nations, okay, due to the fact we know about Adam, okay, and we know it came to the time of the flood after, Adam, okay, we had Noah, the direct descent from Adam, okay, and during the time of the flood, we know the Lord brought the flood and only saved 8 souls, okay, or 8 people when it came to Noah himself, his wife, okay, and the 3 sons that Noah had, okay, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, then you had then you had their wives, okay, out of the 3 sons, okay, the three wives unto them, which make a total of 8, okay. But the Lord separate the nations, okay, during that time when it came to the bloodline of Shem, okay, and mainly when it came to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay, Israel, okay. But to this day, okay, you had the nations stem out of Noah, okay, and his sons. But like I said, the Lord divided the nations. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee. And that's what we're coming back now, to the remembrance of our true inheritance, that we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. Okay? And we come back to the remembrance that these heathen nations are separate from us, man. That Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is not dealing with them when it comes to equal rights, okay, or salvation, okay. Okay, the Lord separate, okay, as it's going to continue on. When the Most High divided the nations, their inheritance, when he separate the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Okay, so Israel, man. Okay, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, and he says separate the nations. Okay, from Adam. Okay, when it comes to these heathen nations, let's get this. Let's get this. Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 33, verse 10. And all men are from the ground, and Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge, the Lord had divided them and made their ways diverse. Okay? Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them he sanctified and set near himself, the Israelites. Okay? But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out their places. And at this time, start with the Edomites and the rest of these heathen nations. Okay? And as the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it as his pleasure, So is man is in the hand of him that made him to render to them as like him best. Okay, so Yahweh Shema Shai, okay, that created all nations, but he made that separation when it comes to the nation of Israel and these heathen nations, man. Okay, and it says, good is set against evil, life against death, so is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. Okay, and we represent the righteous. Okay, and what make us righteous once again? The law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, even though right now we're under the grace period and all about the elect at this time. Okay, because we're not going to be justified by the law, statutes, commandments. Okay, although we keep them to the best of our ability. Okay, that shows our works and our faith towards Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, but it's all about the Lord having mercy. Okay, because we might have our people saying how can we be the righteous? Look how corrupt our people are. Okay, like I said, those are the curses. Okay, but when the kingdom is established, all Israel gonna be righteous when it comes to the new covenant in our inward parts. Okay, and we're gonna rule over these heathen nations, man. Okay, these heathen nations representing uh, uh, evil, starting with Esau, Edom. Okay, because the law, statute, commandments was to give it to them, man. Okay, matter of fact, let's get this. And so the Lord don't care about all nations. Okay, only Israel. Psalms chapter 47, Psalms chapter 147, verse 19. He showeth his words unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgment unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay? So the Lord only show his words, his laws, statutes, commandments. Okay? Is only dealing with the nation of Israel. And at this time, like I say, mainly at this time the elect. Okay? When it comes to the law, statute, commandments, okay, the history, okay, our inheritance, prophecies, okay, the times that we're coming into, who the kingdom is for and only, okay, and when it comes to these other nations, okay, these heathen nations, they soon to be our servants, okay, because like I said, the Lord doesn't care for all these other nations, man, okay, they ain't really insignificant. Let's get this, Second Esdras, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord over all creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen, okay, the nation of Israel, okay. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sake. As for the other people, okay, the other nations, okay, the heathen nations, the original Gentiles, okay, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing but be like unto spittle, as had likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel, meaning they insignificant, man. Okay, the Lord created them to be our service. Okay, but due to of course, the Lord's prophecy and the Lord set them up at this time to rule over us. Okay, due to us going off as a nation. Okay, but the Lord gonna have favor on Israel, as the scripture says, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1. Okay, you're gonna have favor on Jacob, have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel. Okay, and these heathen nations, okay, is going to face their judgment for 1,000-year period in the kingdom. Okay, and after that 1,000-year period, the only nation that's going to be done away with are the biblical Edomites. Obadiah 1 and 18. Okay, and it says, and and now, O Lord, behold, these heathens, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. Yeah, because now we're in the time of our captivity, and we on the bottom. Okay, and these heathen nations ruling over us. Okay, but Esau, Edom, okay, it's the last heathen nation that's gonna rule over us. Okay, in the same chapter, Second Esdras chapter 6, verse 6 through 9, going into how Esau, Edom is the end of the world, meaning the end of an age, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow. Okay, we coming to that transition now. We coming to the downfall of Esau, Edom, and the uprise and the liberation. Okay, when it comes to deliverance of the nation of Israel, when it comes to Yahweh Shai returning and delivering the elect at this time. Okay, that's going to issue in the kingdom. Okay, the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, which by default the kingdom of Israel. Okay, and in that kingdom, David is going to be back on the throne. Okay, the rest of the 12. Okay, the believers. Okay, starting with the elect. Okay, the house of David is another way saying the elect. Okay, and Yahweh Shai being the head. Okay, like I say, and throughout process of time, the 2/3 is going to be reborn back in the kingdom. Okay, which is reincarnation. Okay, and when it comes to these heathens that perish on this side, they're going to come back in the kingdom through the bloodline that be reserved for captivity. Okay, they're going to come back through their bloodline. Okay, to be servants. Okay, and like I say, after that first 1,000-year period of the kingdom, the only nation that's going to be done away with are the Edomites. Okay, and also which our kingdom is going to be an everlasting kingdom. Okay, when it comes to that first 1,000-year period, after the Edomites done away with, okay, the heathen nations that remain, okay, they're gonna be our servants forever, because our kingdom is gonna be an everlasting kingdom. Okay, and it says, but we, okay, verse 57, and now, O Lord, behold, these heathens which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. But we, thy people, who thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. Okay, due to the prophecy's sake. Okay, but ultimately due to us being disobeying or disobedient to Yahweh Shem Shah. Okay, when it comes to us as a nation, okay, following after these false gods, idol worship, hedonistic customs, okay, breaking the law, statutes, commandments, doing all type of wickedness, okay. But once again, the Lord going to have mercy upon the nation of Israel, starting with the elect, okay, when Yahweh shall return, okay, and it's starting now as the elect being gathered by the way of this word, okay, and that's the number that we're striving to be part of, okay, also the hopeful elect that has been called and hopefully be chosen, that represent this word and that has the faith, the faith of Yahweh Shem Shai. And it says, if the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an heritage with the world? How long shall this endure? Okay, and right now we don't have our heritage as it comes to our physical land. Okay, but we have it spiritually. Okay, understanding that we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites. Okay, and like I said, when it comes to the laws, statutes, commandments, the traditions, the high holy days, we keep it to the best of our ability. Okay, but right now we in exile, man. We in captivity here in America and scattered amongst these heathen nations. Okay, but we're going to have our possession of our land again once Yahweh Shai established the kingdom. Okay, and deliver us, the nation of Israel. Okay, when it comes to the us of the hopeful elect. Okay, Matthew the 24th chapter, verses 29 through 31. Okay, the Lord gathered the elect here in America and worldwide, and instantly that's going to issue in the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, which by default, once again, the kingdom of Israel. Okay, the kingdom of Israel being established. Okay, when it comes to Yahweh Shai, deliverance by the way of the chariots, and eventually the elect being descended back here on the earth. Okay, Revelation chapter 21, verse 1. That John saw New Jerusalem coming out of the heavens, establish the kingdom here on the earth. Okay, when it comes to our land. Okay, like I said, because the people that's over there right now occupying our land. Okay, Esau, Edom. Okay, those phonies. That land gonna be cleansed by the way of thermonuclear fire, just for us to rightfully own our land again. Okay, hey, but America, once this place be totally destroyed, the whole land mass, okay, it's never gonna be inhabited again by mankind or nations. Once the fire and smoke dies down, man, it's gonna become a desert. Okay, and the only thing that's gonna inhabit this place is desert-like creatures. Okay, and it's gonna be a amalgamate of what not to do. Okay, so that's it on that. Let me see. Let's get this. Isaiah chapter 40, verse just backing up second Edges that I just read, second Edges chapter 6. Okay, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 15. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of a balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor beast thereof sacrifice sufficient for a burnt offering. Okay, so it doesn't matter if Esau Edom, talking about he trying to make a offering for his sins. Okay, which Esau Edom ain't gonna be forgiven. Okay, Hebrews 12:16. Okay, because they are the wicked. Okay, the whole nation. Okay, when it comes to the Edomites, even when these other heathen nations, man. Okay, Lord ain't gonna have no mercy upon them. Okay, when it comes to their judgment and their enslavement. Okay, the Lord only gonna have mercy upon Israel. Okay, as I said at the time, the elect. And it says, all nations before him are as nothing. They are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. Okay, but that's all the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah feel about these heathen nations. And we had the same mind frame, okay, us, the nation of Israel, okay, when it comes to us, the hopeful elect, okay, which is a ruling class mentality, okay, because when we present this word to majority of our people, and we tell them that these heathen nations, there's no salvation for them, that the kingdom is only for us, okay, and in our kingdom, these heathen nations are gonna be subject unto us, and they don't want to accept that, okay, but that's okay, man, okay, because the word is only for the elect at this time. Okay, and the ones of our people don't understand the truth. Like I said, the Lord eventually gonna judge you, and they're gonna have to come back in the kingdom in their right mind. Okay, but Lord said these heathen nations are nothing, man. Okay, matter of fact, let's get this, and I'll get ready to close. Okay, we know about Revelation chapter 13, verse 9. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay, and that's starting with Esau Edom. Okay, when it comes to the punishment of Esau Edom, right along with the rest of the heathen nations. Okay, they're trying to cut us off as a nation, man. Okay, at this time. Okay, Psalms the 83rd chapter going to that. Okay, the list of our enemies, but their future. Okay, once Yahweh Shah come back and disappoint Esau Edom, NWO. Okay, as they trying to establish the NWO, trying to bring the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay, coming with more and more AI technology, trying to get rid of the existence of the God of the Bible, okay, and trying to more and more keep us, the Lord chosen people, subject unto them when it comes to the NWO and these heathens outside of Esau Edom, right along with them, that's in league with them, okay, trying to cut us off as a nation, okay, but all that's going to be disappointed, and that's going to be their future, man. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 17. Um, no, verse 15. And it says, why criest thou for thy affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I had done these things unto thee. And it's going to us as a nation. Okay? As we in this current captivity. Okay? And none of the curses, man. Okay? The Lord always punished us when we went off, man. Okay? But now we're at the end of our captivity. Okay? In this time. Okay? And now it's about to be the time of these heathen nations being punished. Okay? Starting with the Edomites, man. Okay, mainly starting with these elites. Okay, they're gonna be the first ones to go into captivity, as they're gonna be in their retreats after the Third World War, and they're gonna be gathered up by us, the nation of Israel, man. Okay, when it comes to the elect, okay, and then and during that time we're gonna be immortal. We're gonna have extraterrestrial bodies, superhuman bodies, spiritual power. Okay, and we're gonna gather them up. Okay, and for this. And he says, therefore, all they that had devoured thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. So there's judgment, righteous judgment, true justice, man. And Lord gonna have favor upon us, man. Okay, and it's gonna be the time for these heathens to serve out their punishment. Okay, mainly Esau, Edom. Okay, but all of them, look, the scripture says all our adversaries shall go into captivity, man. Okay, and all the resources of the world gonna belong to us, man. Okay, which is rightfully ours anyway. Okay, our inheritance. Okay, which is gonna start in Jerusalem, Israel, and it's going to span worldwide, man. Okay, and even to the point university. Okay, as Esau got the term university, which means one. Okay, but we know when it comes to when it comes to we know the Lord created uh, planets. Okay, different galaxies. But there's no limitation to Lord power. That's what we've come to understand too. Okay, that the Lord got different planets that gonna be inheritance by us, man. Okay, and that probably be another lesson for another time. But we focusing right here on the earth. And when it comes to Yahweh Shai returning, establish the kingdom, okay, here on the earth, the kingdom of Israel. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds. And what our wounds, okay, the curses, okay, and it's going to be healed, okay, ultimately by the way of Yahweh Shai returning and delivering us, the nation of Israel, okay, starting with us of the hopeful elect. And we being changed, man, okay, from being mortal to immortality, enter into the new covenant. And like I say, everlasting life, man, okay, in righteousness, okay. When it comes to those incorruption bodies. And when it comes to these heathen nations, they ain't gonna have that. Okay? They're gonna have those, still have those mortal flesh. Okay? Immortality is only for the nation of Israel, man. Okay? Starting with the elect. And it says, say the Lord, because thou called thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, who no man seeketh after. Okay, that's how these heathen nations feel about us. Cause rightfully so. Cause right now, they over us, okay? And they are our enemies. The Lord set them up to be our enemies. But soon they're going to get a rule awakening, okay? Or which they see in the nation of Israel raising up now, okay? When it comes to ultimately the elect, okay? That's why these heathens are shooking now, okay? Mainly Esau, Edom, okay? But, you know, in their mind, they think they're going to somehow come with an NWO, okay? Trying to, you know, juke prophecy, upset prophecies, okay? But all going to be a failing attempt. And it's going to come to the end of it, okay, which we believe through the words of Yahweh Shema Shai by faith. And what we're seeing now is that Esau Edom going to be disappointed, man, right along with these heathen nations, man, okay? And the Lord going to give us the upper hand, okay, to rule over them, okay, to establish the kingdom of Israel over them, man, okay? And ain't going to be no more marking and scoffing and scorning, okay? You know, trying to more and more when it comes to these heathen nations trying to rule over us and trying to, you know, bring a ethnic cleansing against us. Okay, now it's gonna be the time that the Lord gonna raise us up, man. Okay, when it comes to eventually the kingdom being established. Okay, the transition of power, man. Okay, that's what these heathen nations about to witness, man. Okay, especially Esau, Edom. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the lesson here, and I pray that lesson will edify. Until next time, Lord willing. Shalom to the hopeful. Till next time, shalom. They stay strong. We almost home. Shalom.